Tonight, the most powerful storm on the planet.
Experts are calling it the strongest storm on
Ilikas ang mga residente sa St. Bernard
ng malaking landslide on, killing around more than 1,000 people.
Floods swept into homes while the occupants were sleeping. Water unaccountable. Found 2 bodies.
The Philippines belong to the northwestern Pacific Basin, the most active region or basin where tropical cyclones develop. The monsoons, the southwest that affect us from May until September, and the northeast monsoon that affect mostly the eastern seaboard from October until early March. We also have localized thunderstorms. We have one of the longest coastlines in the world. In addition to this, we have cold front, or the tail end of the cold front, the intertropical convergence zones. These are series of low pressure areas or cloudiness that oscillates from Mindanao to Luzon area depending on the year, depending on the season or the month. And singly or in combination, all this produce rainfall which trigger flash flood, rainfall-induced landslide, and for tropical cyclone, storm surges.
Parang may dalawang eroplano na ganyan-ganyan. Tapos maya-maya na ano talaga yung nabiyak yung bundok. Tapos diretso talaga ang putik doon sa gitna. Tumakbo ako sa may malaking bilyaran. Sabi ko, Lord, bahala ka na sa akin.
Disaster risk management is an important aspect of the Environment and Rural Development Program. It started with the disaster in St. Bernard when a big landslide killed over 1,000 people some 5 or 6 years ago. Since then, we have assisted municipalities and various provinces in being better prepared for disasters, such as floods or landslides. We find that the biggest threats to the rural communities, especially in the flat-lying areas, are floods, which frequently come and destroy whatever people have built up and saved. Whenever these floods occur, it's mostly the poor people who suffer then most. Local flood early warning systems, of course, as the name says, warn people on the ground early enough of floods so that they can, for example, evacuate to centers.
Pag magbaha dito, yung 20 na high risk sa flooding ay ano talaga siya. Parang makikita mo, parang dagat. 20 barangays na ano na sa low-lying areas, parang dagat siya. Yung mga rice field, di mo na makikita yung rice field, parang tubig na lahat. Tapos iba kasi yung ano namin, yung karakteristik ng river namin, rumaragasa kasi siya. Hindi siya yung bigla-biglang mag-ganon lang, parang dito, parang ganon. Hindi, bugso talaga siya. Kasi yung, di ba, kita mo from mountain, pupunta agad ng coastal. May mga namamatay sa baha, may mga naaanod na mga kalabaw, may naaanod na mga, kahit mga livestock ba, tsaka mga pananin. 2008 May, natapos yung installation ng ng mga gadget ng GIZ. Parang established na yung LFUs, Local Flood Early Warning System. Wala nang namatay doon sa baha. Naglilinis siya kasi para pumasok naman yung tubig doon sa sensor para masisense niya yung yung level na ng tubig.
The flood early warning system works in principle that you detect dangerously high water upstream, and then you know if a certain threshold is surpassed, downstream there will be flood a few hours or a day later. First line of defense though is a rain gauge, because the rain comes first and then the water in the rivers are rising. You need to have a system to communicate the data that you're collecting upstream to the downstream area where people are living. This is done normally by radio frequency, high frequency radios, and that is then going to an operation center where 24/7 people are working to observe whether there are any dangers coming up. In this operation center, people have to decide, is this now really a dangerous development or not? And then they have normally 3 alert levels which they can raise. The alert level 1 means there is a danger coming up, but it's not yet sure, but slow preparations should be done. Level 2 means danger is really coming, river will spill. And the third level means really it's now high time to go run. So this is communicated then with a communication chain, which is normally using mobile phones, handheld radios, or other means to communicate it to LGUs, barangays, communities.
Tangig. Sir, good morning sir. So, naka-raise na ta sir, alert level 3 na ta sa atong lawigan, dire sa atong lawigan bridge.
Sir Bear, itong sa rain gates, nag-monitor ka sa tubig, pila naman atong control? Cap, level 3 na ta.
Base, Rose, nag-alert level na ang barangay Libas base. Nakinahanglan namin sa inyong panabang diri sa pag-rescue sa ang barangay Libas nga alert level 3 kata. Gikinahanglan ang evacuate na ta.
Paghikay na diha kay nanay, ginahin na tawag evacuate ka nanay kuan. Balita nga nanay datong tempo.
GIZ very often improved existing public buildings to be fit as evacuation centers. Evacuation centers normally are schools or other public buildings. And the schools are very often not ready to take people overnight. So we improved them with sanitary facilities, water purification, toilets, cooking areas. But we also in some cases built new buildings which serve as evacuation centers.
Early warning system, talagang nakasave siya ng life. Wala nang naaanod na tao, wala nang, tsaka yung mga properties, yung mga livestock, wala na. Tsaka nakapaghanda na yung mga farmers ba. After noon, wala nang naaanod. Siguro kasi alam na nila kung babaha to, tapos kailangan i-ano na natin yung kalabaw, isi-safety na natin yung kalabaw, parang ganun ba. Naiwasan yun through proper awareness sa kanila, tapos na hindi pwedeng, kung ganito na, hindi kayo pwedeng walang bahala na lang kung dito na yung tubig.
Nagsugod ko og uma niadtong 1978, mag-uuma sa Humay. Unsa kani ang barangay Tabis Uno, puro ni sa baha. Niadtong 1982 bagdo sa Bising, ang among mga humayan nahurot jud. Nahurot nitong 1982, wa jud minaani kay ang among mga kabasakan giagian sa nahimo bitong kabatuan. Unsa ing usob og bagdo nitong 1992 roofing mao gihapon ako gihapon og damage. Since pudo man ko ka-experience din wala man akong edad 56 na sa pagkakaroon, wa ko ka-experience nga naay na disgrasya na patay. So ang among ginakatungnan sa training, sa among gi-apply gajud. I-apply na mo na among early warning system. Aral namin ka-alert og panahon nga naay disaster.
To sustain our DRRM initiatives, we conduct regular meetings po. And not only the LGU, we include the barangays. So we conduct regular meetings at least twice a month. And then we conduct drills, of course, to test our capacities. And then we have CRAs have already been conducted, community risk assessments. LFUS is very helpful when we say about NDRRMC operations. Kasi even before disaster strikes, because of the LFUS, we have prior information already regarding especially the water levels. So more or less, we can monitor early warning. So it's preparedness. It has a very big, it plays a very big role in preventing casualties, of course. And of course, if you have to secure your property, if you have an early warning, then you can prepare ahead. For us at the LGU, we target 0 casualties.
We have 18 major river basins in the Philippines. and 421 principal river basins. For our 18 major river basin, existing yung 5. In Luzon, we have Pampanga, Agno, Bicol, Cagayan, and Pasig, Marikina, which is in Metro Manila. So all of these are equipped with fully automatic rainfall and water level sensors. We're working now on 8 major river basins in Mindanao. Pag sinabing major, these are based sa classification ng National Water Resources Board, is 1,400 square kilometers or more. Yung area, yung drainage area. Below that area, we call them principal river basins. And napakarami yan sa Pilipinas. And these are very flashy. For our principal river basin, we encourage and promote our community-based flood early warning system, which is now being promoted at the local level in coordination or with complementation from our donors, because that's what we really wanted. For a flashy and small basin, we want the community operate this. They don't have to bring all this data to Manila for processing. We want to teach them on their own. Kasi it's manageable eh. And they have a DRR. You know, the DRR framework is replicated from the national down to the local, to the barangay. So we ride on that setup to put up our early warning system.
Ibig mo sabihin may nag-ayos na ngayon doon dyan? Ayos na yun.
Ito yung Pilot Flood Forecasting and Warning Center ng Philippines, no? Nag-exist kami, nag-start kami 1973 and ngayon is actually 40 years na kami, no, in existence. And ang pinaka-primary function namin is to provide, unang-una to monitor, no, the hydrological conditions of the Pampanga River Basin, and second, to provide warnings and advisories to flood-prone communities within the basin. What is best para dito sa mga smaller rivers is ang advocacy namin is to have local flood warning systems, no? Or kuminsan sabi ang term nila dito is community-based flood early warning system or local flood early warning systems. We give them or we provide them technical trainings, kami ang nagde-determine ano ba ang magandang setup, etc., etc. But still it's the community, that is empowered to do what is best for the community.
Dito sa ecological sa global.
Sa mga barangay officials, sa partner po natin, ang GIC, inulit ko po isang magandang umaga. Kaya po tayo nandito ngayon, napaka-importante po ito. Na ito po ay hindi magiging successful kung wala pong inyong cooperation.
Sometime in 2005 na nagkaroon ng, hindi siya bagyo, talagang series din ng pag-ulan, heavy rains na 10 days apart. So that was December 7, December 17, and December 27 na baha yung buong Calapan. We experience here in the provincial capital na waist deep dito sa baba, nag-iiba yung course ng tubig.
So yun ang problema namin ngayon. That's why we're trying to, and that's the reason why we have to talk to the different mayors para tulong-tulong kami.
So sabi nga namin, while yung permanent interventions na iniisip natin makasolve ng flooding problems ay hindi pa na-institute kasi it would take time and it would take a lot of money, kailangan natin ma-prepare yung communities natin na paghandaan yung mga ganitong insidente. Na alam nila kung kailan, kung kailan nila kinakailangan umalis, saan sila kailangan pumunta, yung gano'n. So, in exchange for lives. Definitely yung investment ng provincial government is worth it kapag ang pinag-uusapan natin is yung posibleng buhay na mawawala. And to top ito pa yung livelihood ng mga kababayan natin, yung ating sakahan na definitely siyang naaapektuhan kapag tumabaha. And what's a few million pesos as compared with the lives na we can save with the system, di ba?
The costs depend a little bit on the size of the river, of how complicated the river is, whether it has many tributaries, and also on how many parts of the equipment are probably already there. Communication equipment might be already in LGU. For a small river, we think that the average cost or the minimum cost would be 1 million pesos. This is including already the different parts of the system. If the river is bigger, maybe 2 million, and if it's on the upper limit, then it would be 3 million pesos.
The rice that you eat, the fruits that you get from our forest here and from our orchard, that's because of the water, availability of water. And it's very important for the lives of those living in this island.
Importante talaga yung ilog, kaya pag walang ilog, paano na yung mga palayan namin? Di man may katubig. Pero, magkakakuan niya po ng ilog o gubaha na lagi. Karang kakuan kadyo, kanang hasol ba?
Pag lumabis naman sobra, at nagiging resulta sa pagkamatay ng tao and destruction of properties, it becomes a curse.
If a poor person loses little things, it's difficult for a poor household to recover. So it's important that especially the poorer households in a river basin or in a watershed, that they are protected by means of local flood early warning systems, so that they can save the little what they have, and especially their lives, of course.
But PACASA estimates that there are more than 300 small rivers in the country which don't have flood early warning systems. And so we set up something like 16 now, there are some others, so in total there are a few dozen, but compared to 300 and more rivers, that is still a small amount. I think the question of replicability is not a technical one, or so it is more the mindset of people, communities, LGUs, who recognize that early warning is an urgent task to do.
The biggest lesson we learned from any activity, from any disaster that we did, awareness and preparedness by the local government is still the first line of defense. We have lessons learned, we have best practices on this, and that's really our goal, zero casualty.